There are moments in history when the most unlikely hands shape the destiny of nations. Not the mighty warriors with shields, not the kings with crowns, but the quiet, unseen ones. And this is one of those moments. Sisera, the commander of the enemy army, had been terrorizing Israel for years. His iron chariots thundered across the land like storms of fear, crushing every whisper of freedom. Mothers prayed for their children's safety, fathers walked the fields with dread, and hope seemed like a distant star. But God had already set the stage. On that fateful day, the Israelites, led by Deborah the prophetess and Barak the warrior, rose up. They fought with fire in their hearts and trust in their God. And Sisera, the man who once inspired terror, fled the battlefield like a shadow at sunrise. His chariots were useless now, stuck in the mud of defeat. So he ran until his legs burned and his pride was nothing but dust. And where did he run? Into the tent of a woman named Jael. Now, Jael was no soldier. She held no sword, no shield. She was a wife, a keeper of her home, a woman who watched the world from the quiet edges. Yet sometimes it is in the quiet edges that God writes his loudest miracles. Sisera stumbled into her tent, panting, desperate. "Hide me," he begged. "Give me water. They are chasing me." Jael's heart must have pounded like a drum. Here was the man who had crushed her people, the man mothers whispered about in fear. And now he was vulnerable, sitting under her roof. She gave him milk instead of water, warm, soothing, enough to lull a weary man to sleep. She covered him with a blanket, almost like a mother tucking in a child. And Sisera, the mighty commander, laid his head down and drifted into slumber. But Jael was wide awake. I imagine her standing there, staring at him, her hands trembling, her breath caught between fear and courage. Maybe she thought of the women who had cried out because of this man's cruelty. Maybe she thought of her people's future, of children who deserved to live free. And in that moment, she knew this was not just her tent. This was God's battlefield. She reached for what she knew. Not a sword, not a spear, a tent peg. Just a simple, ordinary tool she had used countless times in daily life. And with steady hands that had once built a home, she brought justice crashing down. Sisera never rose again. When Barak arrived chasing his enemy, Jael stepped out with quiet strength and said, "Come, I will show you the man you are looking for." And there he was, Sisera, fallen, slain by the hands of a woman no one saw coming. And that, my friends, is the beauty of Jael's story. She wasn't a warrior. She wasn't in the spotlight. She was just a woman in a tent. But God doesn't need titles or weapons to change history. He needs willing hearts. Sometimes your tent, your ordinary space, your everyday tools becomes the very ground where God brings victory. Sometimes the battle is won not with swords, but with courage in hidden places. So the next time you feel small, overlooked, or too ordinary to matter, remember Jael. Remember the tent peg, and remember that God's power can turn even the quietest hands into instruments of destiny.